quite honestly, if I'm not working through some of those things that are going on in the inside of me, I'm leaking. We're trying to plug holes because we're leaking everywhere because we're not allowing ourselves to take time to kind of fill over those holes.
Welcome to another episode of That's a Rep, and I'm so excited. We've been doing a series where we've been interviewing our coaches, and we've got another coach with us today. We're going to kind of dive into why she chose to be a coach and what they do and how they interact with our clients. And it's something that is really good to explain to everybody, but also talk about their personal journey. So today we are here with Coach Lisa.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, everybody. So we are excited to jump in with her and just get into the good stuff. But first, we want to know who Coach Lisa is. How did she actually end up here? So we're going to jump right into a first question. Tell me about the moment or the stretch of life where you personally realized Forte coaching, this idea of mental fitness, wasn't just an idea, but it was something you needed. Go ahead and introduce yourself and then tell us that.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. It's a joy to be with you today. I'm excited to talk about what we do here at Forte. I've been with the company for 3 years and love what I get to do. I have, I think, loved it so much because it's such a big part of who I am. And it started actually years ago when I was 12 years old. I went from a very small private school, maybe 70 kids, to a huge high school of over 2,000. And I remember the school counselor from that high school came to our little school. There were 5 of us that were going to this big school. And he had lunch with us. He got to know us, asked us all about ourselves. And that was that. And after the summer, I went to high school. And I remember being so overwhelmed. I still have dreams to this day of not being able to find my locker because there were locker quads everywhere. But I'll never forget the day. His name was Mr. Erickson. It was probably less than a week into being in high school. I was walking through trying to figure out where my next class was, and I heard, "Hey, Lisa." And I looked, and it was Mr. Erickson, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? How you settling into, life here in high school?" And asked me something about something they had found out when we had lunch together. Mm-hmm. And I will never forget that because he saw me, he knew who I was, and he asked about me. And I remember I felt so seen. And that, crazy enough, has been a motto of mine in my life. I want people to feel seen and known. And so Forte fits that in so many ways. I'm also a pastor. I've been a pastor for 20 years. I could own stock in Starbucks and be a millionaire for the amount of times I go to coffee with people and just listen to their stories and kind of just be with them in that and help them to kind of process maybe whatever's going on in their lives. And so Forte was just a natural fit when I was asked to be a part of it. I serve also as a spiritual director. So I sit with people as they're trying to process their faith life with God. I'm also a certified life coach. And so really have learned over time how to hopefully ask questions that peel back the onion and help people go deeper beyond just what's at the surface in their life to kind of experience what's going on the inside. And that's really what mental fitness is all about, what's going on in the interior of our lives. So
what you were talking about was making me think too. We have kind of similar backstories. I went to a small private school my entire life. I think my graduating class had 15 people in it. Okay. And went off to college after that, and it was thousands of people. And I distinctly remember I had missed 2 classes, my speech class in college. And I came back to my dorm room to a phone call, and it was a voicemail from that professor saying, "Hey, I'd like to meet with you tomorrow." And I was like, "What's going on here?" So I went to his office and I sat down, and he looked at me and he goes, "I'm not going to let you get away with it." And I was like, "What's going on?" Like, so confused. But what it was is he sat me down and he was like, "You were the guy in high school who got away with a lot, probably. And you had good grades and people just kind of let you do what you were going to do." And he was like, "You've missed 2 of my classes. You miss another one, you're going to fail my class." And he's like, "I'm not going to let you do that. And I'm holding you to a higher standard. And I actually have the person in charge of your whole department on my side." And it was a moment. Yeah, it was a lot. But it was a moment where I was like, man, did I need that. And someone recognized it because I was just going to coast. And because of that guy, I didn't coast through college. There were moments where I
Wow.
did, but
Sure.
I resonate with what you're talking about is sometimes you just need that person to say, hey, you know what? I see you and I see
Mm-hmm.
what you're going through. And it's so great
Yeah.
that we have that opportunity at Forte and you specifically
Mm-hmm.
as a Forte coach. And you talked a lot
Yeah.
about being in ministry, which I was in ministry too. And I just want to say, even if you don't have a faith background, we're not going
Mm.
to shove that down your throat in any way. We want to come alongside you where you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not preachy. It is literally our Forte coaches are trained to listen to you and just to come alongside you and understand you better. So don't take it that way. But at the same time, everybody has a different faith journey and everybody has a different view of how things are. And it's not our job at Forte to tell you what your view should be. So
Yeah.
just a little caveat there as we continue this conversation.
Being a person of faith, I've from a young age was aware of my interior life
Mhm.
and I think was fairly healthy in that way. But about 20 years ago, one of those things that you wish never happened in your life. You didn't want to be a part of maybe that story. But my brother at the time was 45 years old and took his life. And if you would have asked me anyone in the world that I ever thought would do that, my brother would be the last person on the list.
Yeah.
So it was just shocking. There was a lot that had to happen in the moment as far as just getting things done and then trying to figure out what happened, get answers for what happened. And you can imagine in a suicide case, there aren't always answers. And so that season in my life was a dark season in the sense of feeling I'm a person that wants to figure it out. So I often go from the pausing to wanting answers. And in this particular case, it took over a year of having to sit with emotions that were really hard, to sit with unanswered questions. And actually, I never really did get an answer that made sense to me. So how do you let go? How do you move forward? How do you have resilience to believe that life can still be okay and that you can get past it, never forgetting, obviously, the person, but getting past the pain of what is just such a traumatic, reality in my life. So that year-long process had me diving deep into mental fitness and what that looked like for me.
It's amazing to me. I hear not your story specifically, but these kinds of stories as a thread through everybody that works at Forte, a lot of the coaches we talk to, people have gone through things.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason we want to help others is that we've gone through painful moments. We know that you will too. And we want to come alongside you and help you through that and help you grow. And that's what really mental fitness is all about, is to be proactive in those moments because we know they will come. And that's guaranteed in life, unfortunately, that there will be hard times, there will be tribulations, and we need to know how do we get through that. And so it's such a great thing that this company is here and able to do that. So how has doing this work with other people changed how you handle your own stuff, and not just your clients, but in your own life?
Yeah, I have to laugh because, I just had a situation a month ago where my son, who's an adult, he's in his 30s, was home just for a couple days. And I just picked him up from the airport. You know, when you catch up when you haven't seen your adult kid, those of you that have adult kids, you just can't wait to hear what's going on in their life. And he was just sharing about actually an experience that he had that was kind of traumatic and how he was working through it. And he's like, Mom, do you ever go through like trauma? It just always seems like your life is. And I'm like, well, actually, I'm going tomorrow to a retreat center that I was at a year ago. And I still have some kind of icky memories of what happened at that retreat center. It was nothing huge in any way that I'll tell the story, but more just some feelings that I was still holding on to, that the thought of going back there was like ick, right?
Yep.
And he's like, okay, Mom, just close your eyes for a minute. I'm like, are you my therapist or what's going on? And he's like, I want you to think about like how, when you think about going up there, how does that feel? And I'm like, well, like, it's like, name the emotion. I'm like, well, honestly, like I feel angry. And then I started explaining why. And I opened my eyes like, no, close your eyes, Mom. No, how does that feel? Where does that feel in your body? And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I could actually literally feel it like in my chest area. And I started to say why I was angry. And he's like, Mom, I don't want to hear yet why you were angry. I want you to just know and feel that emotion that it's okay to feel angry.
Yep.
And it was like he was coaching me, and not that every coaching session we talk to that degree, but dealing with this whole process, the framework of how we work at Forte with, again, I so easily want to go from pausing. I'm okay with pausing, but I want to fix. Right?
Yep.
So I want to go to, so what's the process here and how can it all be better and not stay with my feelings? So that's a real life example. And honestly, when I drove up that next morning, I was breathing techniques on the way up. I was like, I had done some journaling, and I'm like, wow, thanks. I'm so glad I have a son that is working through his own stuff that can ask his mom, hey, how have you ever? And just happened to have a very real and practical example that he could help me with. So yeah.
Yeah. And to that point too, what you did was proactive. It wasn't after you had gotten there and then you reacted to how you were feeling. You were able to talk through it ahead of time and recognize, hey, this thing that's coming, I don't know how to process this right now because I have all these feelings. It's making me think of a time I had been out of ministry for about a year or two. And one of the youth pastor that I used to oversee there asked if I would come lead worship at his ordination. And I was like, yeah, man, totally. That's great. And not thinking through the fact that I was going back to my old church where I was the worship pastor and became kind of an associate pastor, standing on the same stage. And my story is multifaceted because I also grew up in that church and my dad used to be the lead pastor. So there was familial connections and literally grew up in that church. So it was like an immediate yes. I wanted to be there for my friend. And then as I'm standing on stage leading worship, I started to have a panic attack. And by the time worship was done, I got through it. I got down to my seat and I was shaking in my seat. And as soon as it was over, I had to leave. And it was one of those moments where I didn't know going into it that I was harboring feelings, that I was still frustrated, that I had these I should still be here. I wasn't forced out, but I was asked to do too much and nobody recognized that and I burned out and I thought this was going to be my whole life. All of these things were going through. And I wish that I had had a Forte coach to be like, hey, can we meet? Because I've got this thing coming up and I have some things I need to process first. And it's so cool how you were able to do that with your son, which is an amazing thing. So I love that story. Thanks for sharing that. So I think that is a great transition into what a coaching session is like. When a client comes to you, maybe for the first time or the second time, a lot of people come in thinking, well, I know what this is going to be. It's a therapy session. They're just going to tell me what to do. And I'm going to share something about my childhood and they're going to dig deep or whatever it is. So what's the thing a new client almost always thinks is the problem? And what do you usually find is actually going on once you start, I don't want to say digging because I don't think that's what you do, but once you start asking questions?
Yeah. Well, and to your point, just right before that about thinking it's therapy, one of the things that we make sure we, as coaches, tell our clients is that I am not a therapist. And so that hopefully initially in our first conversation helps them to realize that although many of our clients are in therapy and do Forte at the same time, which is a beautiful thing. But one of the things that I notice a lot of times, what they see the problem is what's right in front of them, their circumstance. And so we go right to the circumstance and skip over how we got to that, how they're feeling about it. I think of, just to give you an example, I work with a lot of teachers, and you can imagine coming out of COVID, if you have kids at all, it's just been rough. And a lot of teachers are burnt out and all that. And so I was working with a teacher that had been a teacher for 20 years. And she was just working through this feeling why all of a sudden this year, I feel just not lethargic, but not excited about teaching. That's not normally me. And so the problem was what's wrong with me, right? And as we talked about what was really going on for her, she had this dream a long time ago of wanting to own a bed and breakfast. And she, and in this season with teaching, she'd been there she was in her late 50s, early 60s, thinking about retiring, but wasn't sure if she should yet. And when she said that she thought she'd always wanted to own a bed and breakfast, I'm like, hey, well, what would keep you from doing that? And she said, well, funny you should ask. She said, my husband and I actually were at a bed and breakfast not that long ago up in the city, not too far from a little far from where they live. And it reignited that dream for her.
Mm-hmm.
And they talked about, could this be a reality for us? And so then the conversation moved to, what are we afraid of? Like, or, you know, some of the things that's stopping you. She actually ended up having to leave Forte because she no longer was a teacher. And she and her husband bought a bed and breakfast.
Oh, wow.
And she moved like a month ago, and they're on this new adventure. And it started with, originally her problem was, I don't feel the passion that I feel that I used to feel for teaching. And it gave me a bunch of reasons kind of as to why. And then we kind of dreamed together. And well, funny you should ask. And then the next conversations after that were more and more about unpacking that and how could it become a reality, and how do you leave well at the job that you're at. And so a lot of times the problem is how they're feeling in the moment, that when you go deeper and give them space to process out loud. She didn't think she was coming into that conversation to talk about an Airbnb that she went to. But as she talked and we had space, it's what came up. And I just love that that's what she's doing. I don't love that she's not my client anymore because she was this wonderful lady, but that's how it is with Forte sometimes.
Yeah, and I think it's cool too because we do work with a lot of teachers, and I, as the content person, get to hear a lot of testimonials, and we do hear a lot, kind of not the opposite, but some people who are feeling the same thing and are reignited in their passion because they start to go through that process of like, why did I start doing this in the first place? Why did I have this feeling like I need to be a teacher? And the coaches help them through that. And recently we've had a couple people say, I was going to rage quit. Like I was this close to being done. And I had a session with my coach, and I left, and I'm good now. And I can make it another year. I can make it another couple years. So you never know where your story is going to lead. But that's the beauty of what can happen in a session is sometimes it is a call to say, yeah, maybe it is time to move on. Other times it's a reminder of why you do what you do in the first place, who it's for. Is it for yourself? Is it for those kids? Is it for whoever it might be? So it is a beautiful thing. And we love hearing these stories.
Well, and I would say, John, too, the beauty for me as a coach, I don't have any skin in the game. So I don't care if you dig deep and stay, or if you decide to risk and follow your dream. I just want to be present with you and help you to discover. And that's the key, right? When they can discover for themselves, not when we tell them or give suggestions, you know. So it is really fun when they have their own aha moments and move forward in that.
Yeah, on a personal note, when I left ministry, I was so closely associated with my identity is in what I do. And that is something we talk about a lot at Forte. You're not known for what you do. You're known for who you are. Yes. And there's a big difference there because, especially in America, one of the first things that gets asked in a conversation is, who are you? What do you do? And that's where your identity rests. And for me, it was a process because I had no idea what was next after that. But what's sweet about it, and something that I see a lot now with former pastors and former teachers, is that you can come along people who are in it now. And I volunteer at my local church now. I still help lead worship, and I fill in the gaps where needed because I see them burning out. I see them struggling, and they're like, we need help. Hey, I'm here. I can do that. And I think that that's a cool thing too. Who knows, that Airbnb or that bed and breakfast person that you were just talking about, it'd be great if she was like, hey, there's a teacher's discount because I know how much of a struggle it is for you. Who knows how that's going to play out, but we all have this kind of background that we can bring into these conversations and realize like, yeah, my identity's not in that, but I learned so much when I was there and where I'm at currently that I can apply to my life and help others with as well.
Yeah. It's not like something was bad and now it's good. It's just like change happens. Sometimes it's not the right fit anymore. And we just need to be able to hear ourselves say it out loud, sometimes to even recognize that, to get unstuck, if you will. So there's so much gold, I think, in just being present and listening and let somebody have the space to talk out what it is that's in here that ruminates, right? We all do that. But man, when we speak it, we're like, well, that's not exactly what I meant, you know, and we get to get more specific. So love that.
So without naming anyone, walk me through a kind of moment where you watched something genuinely click for someone. What did that look like and what made it possible?
Yeah. Well, I'm working with a client right now where both she and her husband come from very dysfunctional families. And they're we're this close to not even calling it quits for themselves. But they have this deep tenacity that we do not want to be like our parents. They come from generational, just giving up with marriage, generations of addiction, lots of different things that would make them unhealthy in a lot of ways. But they're both committed to we want the buck to stop here. We want to raise our kids in a healthy home environment and all that. So recently they had this decision to make. Their family lives in a different state. And their brother had invited them to this, I think it was a shower or something, a baby shower. And they felt like they should go, but they knew the environment wouldn't be healthy for their girls in particular. Because again, there's some addiction, some stuff that goes on that they're just, as they're discerning, what do we want our family to be? What do we just say yes to because we fear they won't be in relationship with us anymore, or, all the thoughts that you go through. And so anyhow, long story short, they made the hard choice to, instead of taking their limited resources was part of it, and also their limited time as a family together, did they want to take a shorter family vacation and go somewhere, or did they want to and felt kind of obligated to go out of state and go to this thing that was significant? And she was asked to help with it in advance, which she said yes to. Ended up, they didn't go. She sent all the decorations for it, wished them well, sent a present, but said, hey, we need to say no to this, unfortunately, in this season. We've made this other choice. We have a small window to get away with our two girls before school starts back up again and stuff. And that was the first time, I don't know if ever, that she was able to feel like I did what was healthy for me and for my family. Even though this was a good thing, and in the sense that it would be supporting my brother in his shower, I felt, she said, I didn't want to put my girls through that. I didn't think they were ready. We weren't in a healthy place enough in the relationship anyhow to bring everybody there in that way. So it was just wow, she's saying she wants to do some things different, and she's actually acting on them. And it was she was surprised that she could do that. And it was so beautiful to be able to encourage her that, wow, way to go to send this stuff in advance. Uncle, you said I'm not going to go and I don't care. I do care, but I need to make a choice for our family. And this is what we chose. And not to apologize and make excuses as to why, but just to say, we wish you well. Hope to be able to see you in the not too distant future. But this is what we decided to do. So I don't want to say I was proud of her, but I was just happy for her that she could do what is not natural for her. When you're in relationship with dysfunctional people, and you've been dysfunctional for a long time yourself, these patterns that we just get in, myself included, it's really hard to break. So it was really beautiful to watch her be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's core to what mental fitness is. It's a training of who you are, because your life has been trained. You've been trained to this point by your surroundings, by your past, whatever it might be. And it is like we talk about going to the gym, where maybe you've been physically weak your whole life and you need to be strong. So you go to the gym to lift weights. You do these reps. You can do it over and over until you're to a place where you're strong. And I'm sure in this story, this wasn't the first meeting that you had with her, the first session where she was like, I'm going to do these things. It took time, it took reps, it took all of these opportunities to get to a point where she was like, I feel strong enough that I can do this. So I'd like you to speak to that a little bit if you can, because this idea of a rep is really central to how Forte thinks, these small repeatable actions that build capacity over time. What have you seen become a rep in your clients' lives that's been transformational?
Well, for her in particular, I think it's the rep of, because there's so many times she questioned herself. Am I making, to your point, there were many conversations before this, much unpacking of people's stories as you're getting to know them. In our first times, oftentimes it's a long history of all about themselves. And then we get into, okay, what today do you want to bring to our time together? And for her, the rep was believing in herself. It was noticing when she felt and how she felt. Like, I feel obligated. I feel, but at the same time, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe for me. So this wrestling on the inside. Okay, so what do we do when we feel that way? She had to do a lot of noticing in herself because she would just automatically go to whatever people wanted her to do, even though it was hurting her, even though it was in a lot of ways tearing apart their marriage in some ways, because she was following what her family wanted to do and he was following what his family wanted to do, and both families had a lot of things going on. And so having to notice, what does our family, who are we and what do we want to do? So I really think noticing is a big part. And the reps of being kind and gentle to yourself too. Lots of, I felt this way, but and failures, if you will, along the way, where we kind of went back into patterns, but not to stay there, and to give ourselves grace, if you will, and pick up. And what do we learn from it? It's kind of that whole ponder part of mental fitness. Like, what did we learn from when we just automatically said yes, and now we're resenting the fact that we're having to do something we didn't want to do?
What you're pointing out is exactly what the reps are. They're simple. They're repeatable. They're something that you can actually do. It's a proactive thing. And I think a lot of the times when we react to how we are in life, we're not able to process. We're just, we've already had this thing happen and now we're reacting, and we're just like, well, this is how it's always going to be. And you just kind of accept that. And it's a knee-jerk reaction, where when you can actually process and take a moment and look back, it gives you peace. It gives you a moment to breathe, to pause and say, you know what? I can do this thing. And I have done it in the past, and I can recognize that as well. So I want to kind of transition now into how the world views mental health right now, because what we're talking about for mental fitness and how you approach your sessions with clients, I don't want to say is vastly different than mental health, but it is pretty different, because a lot of mental health, it's I'm broken and I need fixing. Or I'm at a point where my addiction is so overwhelming that I need medication, or whatever it is. Mental health is always in this reactive space. So can you speak to one thing that you'd like to change about mental health and what we call mental fitness? What would it be? Why does it matter to you?
Well, and maybe it's the world I live in, because working at a church, we have numbers of people that just come in off the streets, a lot of houseless people, a lot of people with mental illness. And sometimes when we hear the word mental health, we can go right to mental illness, and we can, well, that's not me. I'm healthy. But mental health is just really looking at the interior of your life, and in the same way, physically fit, we can tell a lot about a person by just looking at them. Like, they look physically fit. And we can think that we look at someone and think, oh, they're mentally fit. But oftentimes, we're, myself included, not necessarily mentally fit in certain seasons, because things have happened and we haven't taken the time to really look at what is going on for us on the inside. I think especially those in service types of jobs. I have a lot of teachers. We work with hospitals. We work with a lot of different companies where people are giving, a lot of nonprofits. And for those of us that tend to be that way, we don't look at ourselves. We don't take time to think about, how am I? I'm so busy helping everybody else, right? Or the opposite of that, I happen to live in the Silicon Valley in California. A lot of people, high capacity. I don't need to look at myself. I'm great. Look how much I'm accomplishing. Look at how much money I make. Look at everything on the outside looks fantastic, right? But they're dying on the inside because they're trying to keep up this facade, if you will. And please don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not trying to judge anybody. We've got a lot of people where I live that truly are successful. They're very healthy people. But there's this tendency one way or the other, either to forget ourselves and be so much about everybody else, or I've got to keep going on this treadmill that I can't stop and think about what's going on for me on the inside. So I feel like in our day and age, it is just normal to need to stop and examine and be aware of what's going on the inside. So I hope that people see it not as something that I need to do. Sometimes when somebody's a new client, they're like, well, I've been in therapy and I guess there's a few things that I could bring. I'm like, well, first of all, again, it's not therapy. And second of all, we're just going to, on any given day, this is kind of a rhythm that you put into your life. Just like I meet with a certain friend once a month and we go hiking.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, hey, I meet with my Forte coach every other week. I have some clients I meet with once a week. I have some I meet with once every 6 weeks. It's like whatever rhythm you want in your life to kind of look what's right in front of you. Like, what's my reality today? What am I thinking about that I just can't like let go of? Or what's causing me to stay awake at night? Where am I feeling anxiety? And I feel like anxiety, it reminds me of like a car dashboard. It's just the lights that are like, hello, something's up, something's up. And we often think if we have anxiety, we have mental health issues. We're like, well, no, not really. You're just like, hey, something's up, attention over here. And we can so often ignore that. And so I'm like, please, like, bring it on. Like, I am so grateful for the people that I have in my life that I talk with on a regular basis. And with us as hopefully as Forte coaches, we are trained in a lot of different areas. Some of our coaches are social workers. Others of us, have other qualifications that make us hopefully be people that hold space well and that don't judge. We're there to just help you explore yourself in greater ways so that you can breathe sometimes and or celebrate. I love that too. And I get to celebrate like, hey, this week was great, Lisa. Here's the things that I practiced, the reps that I practiced. And this is how they practically like worked out for me. And that's a joy.
You can have friend groups around you and people that you can confide in, but they a lot of the times aren't able to separate themselves from being your friend or being your parent. And one of the stories that we've talked about with our customer success manager that I love is somebody found out that they were pregnant and they called their coach because they wanted to celebrate with their coach because they knew that if they told their friends or they told their parents, there would be worry. There would be someone saying, are you sure you're ready for this? Or whatever it was. And they genuinely just wanted someone to be excited for them. And their coach was that person because they didn't come in with that opinion on things. And, that's such a cool thing. And I think the same thing with therapists, but a lot of times they want to prescribe or say that this is the thing that's wrong. The coaches can come alongside and just be like, I see you for who you are. You're a human being. And I want you to know that you're known. And I want to celebrate you where you are. And I think that's really cool that you hit on that too.
Well, and I would say, John, too, a lot of times I hear this from my Forte members is they'll say, I can talk to my friends about it or my husband, but after a while, I feel like I'm Debbie Downer because this still bothers me or I'm still working it through. And so it's crazy to me. And for us, we don't see our clients. Like it's a phone call. So I've never seen you before. I have no skin in the game. And so once again, talk about it every time you're together if you want. As long as we're, you're able to express how you're feeling and hopefully walk away encouraged. That's another part of personally for me as a coach. I think because Mr. Erickson years ago, in him being able to see me, that was an encouragement. So I want people to know that I see the hard work you're doing. I see the progress you're making. I see where it kind of feels stuck. So let's do some brainstorming to how we can, move forward in whatever small way. It doesn't have to be a big way. When you think about reps, I mean, if you go to the gym and you're lifting like a 20-pound dumbbell, like right off the bat, you're going to have issues. But let's start with a 5-pounder and how does that feel? And so it's a process. And I love being able to be available for people in that process for them.
So I'm going to end with one last question for you. For someone listening right now who feels that pull, that maybe I should take this more seriously feeling, what do you want them to know before they close this episode and they go back to their day? Maybe it's one of our members who's listening who hasn't activated their account or booked a session yet, or it's an organization interested and they're saying, should I or shouldn't I? What would you say to them?
Yeah. Boy, I can't say this loud enough, really, in some ways. To have space available. I want to, first of all, thank those companies that do offer this to their clients. Well done. Not every client's going to take advantage of it, but those that do, at least I feel like I hear from mine, like, I'm so grateful to have a place where I can just be authentic, be myself, and be real. And I think so often as companies, we're about getting work done and, productivity and all that. And for your people to know that you care about the inside of them speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So I just want to say thank you to them. And for those that are wondering, is Forte for me? I don't really have, anything major going on. Here's what I've noticed. When I have stuff ruminating over time and I don't have a place to talk it out where I'm really heard and listened to, I start to leak. And what I mean by leaking is I don't think I'm, negative, all the time. I don't think that I'm in this place of just kind of irritated all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But quite honestly, if I'm not working through some of those things that are going on in the inside of me, I'm leaking. And other people see it and they don't know what to do with it or what to say about it or don't say anything at all. And we don't realize that there is something that's going on that really needs some time to look at so that we're not leaking. And it's not to say that in life we're not going to leak here and there, but I think we're trying to plug holes because we're leaking everywhere because we're not allowing ourselves to take time to kind of fill over those holes. Like, how do I get healthy in this one area? Or how do I work through something I'm just struggling with and wondering about? So take advantage of it if you have Forte as a gift. And I say it is a gift from your employer. We're not scary coaches. We're people just like you. And it is an honor. I always say this is an honor and a complete joy to be able to walk alongside you and journey with you in this season. So that's what I'd say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for this time together and our conversation. And thank you for watching. We are loving what we do at Forte, what we get to do. It truly is a blessing to us. And we hope that you take advantage of it, whether you're a member or someone who's interested in taking advantage of Forte and using our coaches to help your people. It does make a difference. And we hear these stories every day. So we just want to encourage you to go to getforte.com to subscribe to our channel here and continue to learn more about mental fitness. Thanks, everybody.